Welcome back, and thank you for logging back on. We've heard from throughout the day, we've been more than 900 people logging on and watching our broadcast here from the Deichman Library, which is really exciting. And now we welcome you back to the section number 3 called Voices from Industry. And we're going to hear from an entrepreneur, a commercial collaboration, and a frontrunner. But to start this session, we're going to talk to not only one, but 3 ladies. We've heard repeatedly throughout the day that shifting towards a circular economy will require collaboration across businesses, across sectors, and even across borders. So how do we orchestrate this massive collaboration project? What kind of arenas do we need? Deloitte pinpointed the need for clusters. But how do we make sure that they not only initiate new projects and partnerships, but also take them to scale? So I'm going to welcome up to the chairs we have on stage here, Camilla Brox from Norwegian Centre of Circular Economy, Irene Vestby from the Industrial Green Tech Cluster, and Nina Schefte from Hydro and part of the Process 21. So I'm going to let you give a little short introduction of yourself, starting with, I can start with you, Irene. What is the Green Tech Clusters and what do you do?
Industrial Green Tech Cluster is a cluster located in the county of Vestfold and Telemark, Grenland region, about 2 hours south of Oslo on the coast. We have Norway's largest concentration of process industries in our region, particularly petrochemicals, chemicals, metals, and cement, and they all export to global markets today. The core activities of the region represent 20% of the total climate gas emissions of Norway today. So it's a large industry sector. And the cluster has brought together SMEs, RTOs, the regional authorities, and all the large industry companies to create an innovation ecosystem to help the necessary transitions and decarbonizations of the industry.
And you have quite an ambition?
Yes, our ambition is to develop the world's first climate positive industry region.
Exciting. And yes. Camilla, what is Norwegian Centre for Circular Economy?
The Norwegian Centre of Circular Economy is a competence and development center for industries, other businesses, and public companies that see opportunities in the circular economy and the green shift. So we offer everything from advisory to test and lab facilities, as well as the large network of individuals and businesses that actually share their knowledge and their experiences from moving from a linear to a circular economy. So we have long routes from Øra industriområde outside of Fredrikstad, where the businesses actually work together in an industrial cluster and have been for years. So the circular economy has actually been for many, many years in Fredrikstad, where the companies cooperate with one another for an optimal exploitation of energy and material use in a circular economy. And there is also a great cooperation with the local and regional municipalities and academia. So that's what we do.
And just to make it clear, you're called the Norwegian Centre of Circular Economy. Are you mainly regional in the Østfold region?
We were established in 2017 at Øra. So the industries that actually first came on board as members of the organizations, we decided to go really into the projects and actually learn where are the barriers or where are the possibilities. So that's what we've been doing for a long time, even though we do have members that actually have a national, that actually cover the national all over Norway. So now we're scaling our network to a more nationalist perspective, sharing our knowledge from the industrial cluster that we've had our outspring from.
We're going to come back to that.
Thank you.
But then we're going to Nina. What is Hydro's role in the circular economy? And since we have international viewers, perhaps you can give a short introduction to what Hydro is.
Thank you. Well, Hydro is a global aluminium company. We have 35,000 employees in 40 different countries. And we are fully integrated, and that means that we are having business all the way from bauxite mines and alumina refinery in Brazil to smelters and cast houses in Europe, and also then extrusion plants all over the world. And the main countries where we are present is Germany, US, Brazil, and Norway. So, and the good thing about being in the aluminium industry when you talk about circular economy is that the material we produce is very much perfect for circular economy, because it's actually, the fact is that 75% of the aluminium ever produced is still in use. Either first time or multiple times it has been used. And why it's so good is that it's very good for the usability, and the quality after you recycle it is much more or less the same as primary metal. So it's and it has a very high value as a secondary raw material as well. So so we have been. Today, in Hydro, we run 18 remelters or recycling plants to remelt aluminium. And the good thing there as well is that when you remelt aluminium, you only use 5% of the energy compared to producing primary aluminium. So it's a good story about being a product and a material that you can recycle many times. But still, we see, of course, some challenges, and will be difficult to achieve 100%. Yes.
And perhaps that's why you joined the Process 21. Can you tell us a little more about the collaboration project and why you joined?
Yes. Well, for us it's very important because we see to develop in the future we need to collaborate. Collaboration is actually the new normal. It's the only logical solution for the future we face. So we are not part of any of your clusters, but we're part of the AIDE cluster, for instance. And we are also an active member of Norsk Industri, the Norwegian Federation of Norwegian Industries. It was natural for us to be part and contribute to the Process 21 different projects there, and we've been part of the expert group on circular economy, and that was a group with representatives from academia, from the industry, and from different organizations. Started last year, and they delivered the final report in June, and the purpose was to see to map the status when it comes to circular economy for the process industry in Norway, and also to see what are the opportunities and some of the challenges. So we have some recommendations for what we see is needed as improvements.
So you talk about your contributions, but what do you get back?
Well, the good by being in that kind of collaborations is to learn from each other, because we are experts on aluminium and recycling and design of products in aluminium, but others have other competences, and we have. But what we see in those kind of collaboration is that in many cases we face the same challenges when it comes to regulations or frameworks or how to find solutions for the byproducts, and for us in the process industry, it's one of the main challenges going forward is to handle hazardous waste, because the process industry stands for 4% of the total waste amount in Norway, but when it comes to hazardous waste, we stand for 45%, and that is normally materials and substances that it's difficult to reuse. And then we need to look into others to help us and to share knowledge and competence to find the best solutions.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up on the competence. Because, Irene, we've heard during the day the importance to spread and build competence. And what is the cluster's role in spreading competence?
A lot of what we're facing needs new technology. We have just finished a roadmap that shows the most important focus areas to reach zero as a region, and we have identified the possibilities in all the large industry companies, and we see even if they're doing all of their projects, also the not profitable ones, fast, we still have around 450,000 tons of CO2 to get rid of. We're saying this part needs to be filled with technology that we don't know of yet, or is not available yet. So we need a lot of research. We need to share the competences. We need to share everything that we know, both within the region, outside the region, nationally and internationally. The cluster organization can act as neutral connection point, enabler, and change agent in order to bring this out to the companies and bring together all the smart people out there. Yes.
Camilla, you wanted to comment on Nina earlier?
Yeah, I just think that the process, the work of the Process 21 has been really, really interesting. And we were so lucky as to have host one of the workshops also with Norwegian Centre of Circular Economy. And we also have one of our members, representative in the expert. So being able to get the industries to actually tell about the barriers and the possibilities is very good, and it's well represented in the report. And what she says also about the competence build is this is how it works. I mean, we have to get together across the networks and across the sectors to actually speak to one another and to learn from one another so that we have a faster track from the linear to a circular economy. Because if everyone is doing the same work all over Norway, then we're moving really, really slow, and we cannot have that. So we need to have that done faster.
So I can ask both Irene and Camilla, we heard you two represent two different clusters, and we heard Nina come up with the different collaborations that Hydro is a part of. How do we make sure that you spread your competences in between the clusters and not just duplicate the competence?
Yeah, by talking to each other.
Good.
And we need to know more about the other clusters and what they're working on, and not only in Norway, but also internationally. We are a member of SPIRE, which is going to be called the Processes for Planets, which is the process industries network in Europe. We need to go there to gather more information, see what they're working on. And like you said, we do face the same challenges. So we absolutely just need to, and there's not enough time that everybody's going to do it on separate pace. We need to escalate this development by doing it together.
I totally agree with that. I mean, just by inviting us together here today, it actually makes us have a connection, and then we can cooperate on that afterwards. And in the Norwegian Centre of Circular Economy, we're actually putting a resource team together in our network and inviting other networks and other sectors to be a part of that resource center. Because we see that when projects come into us, when there's entrepreneurs, where there's businesses that actually see business ideas within the circular economy, we're now able to put the right competence on the right project instead of trying to know everything ourselves. And that's what we have to do. So we cooperate with the Edekling and circular regions and all other different networks.
So, Nina, Hydro is very much a global company, and many of the clusters and collaborations are regional and national. How do you balance that?
Well, we are actually part of clusters in other countries as well, and also cross countries. So because we see that I think all of the projects or processes we are part of when it comes to circular economy are based on collaboration with external partners, because we see our limitations on what we have the competence and expertise on, and we need to bring in others, because that's kind of the fundament for circular economy, that you need to think a bit differently and outside your own business. And I think it's, of course, there are many possibilities and many clusters we would like to be part of, but we need to sort of prioritize which ones we should focus on and where we see that we can contribute the most. So, but and we also, another thing is that we don't only collaborate with other businesses, but we also collaborate with our customers when it comes to circular economy, because we see there's a need to build competence among our customers on the solutions. So what we have done this year is that we have developed 4 different white papers, or that is giving guidance on circular economy and design, for instance, design of products, and circular economy and life cycle assessments on e-mobility and carbon footprint and so on, because we see that there's we need to speak the same language. I learned yesterday from Sintef actually that it exists 140 different definitions of circular economy. So when you talk to someone about circular economy, it might happen that they have something else, other picture in their head than you have. So I think it's very important to learn more from each other and to have some common standards or common systems and frameworks to align on.
Camilla, you can comment on that, but I just want to give you an additional question because both Kim and Kari has mentioned private-public collaboration. And why is that so hard, and how do we make it work?
And that was actually what I was going to comment on, so that was great. Because I've really thought that this conference has been really, really good, and making that a priority to make the connection between the private and the public sector. We've actually gone forward with that, with some of the projects that we've been part of, and we've done it successfully. So by including, and I believe that the local and the regional municipalities have really been part of the making of the Norwegian Centre of Circular Economy. So, and I think that would be also like a recipe for other networks and how to work with their municipalities and the public sector.
Irene?
Yes, I think one tool that's coming in the new Horizon Europe program is Hubs for Circularity. And this is going to be a tool to escalate the development and implementation of new technology. And one of the requirements is, if you're going to be a hub for circularity, is that you have exactly that public-private partnership, and also a close connection between the industry and the entire society around. So we're seeing the need for thinking in larger circles, not just within the industry, but across to other sectors that maybe a lot of the companies haven't even thought about collaborating with before. So that's going to be a very new experience to everybody, I think.
So what's the main barriers to get industry companies to join?
Join circular economy, or to join...
to join the collaboration or to join your clusters.
Oh, I believe that a lot of businesses and organizations are really interested in moving forward with the business opportunities, and they see the business opportunities within within the circular economy. So they are often taking contact with the networks or with other potentially collaborating partners. So I think the positive change is something that we need to talk about, like how are they doing this? And to showcase the projects that actually have succeeded, with how you also get funding, both national funding and European funding, and how you put the whole thing together. And it's very, very, I'm very optimistic.
Irene, you want to comment?
Yes, I think that to make this circular economy work, we need to together press certain triggers to get the system redesign. And that's it's important for all the companies that need this to work to join, because it's going to be hard for them to do it alone, and they have experienced that already, a lot of them. And I think that's why we see this optimistic go for the collaborations, but it must not take so long time to get results. So we do need financial support for de-risking the innovations, and we do need a long-term commitment from all stakeholders. There are a lot of things that will need to happen to actually get there faster.
So from your perspective, Nina, what Irene talks about the trigger points. So what are the main trigger points from your perspective?
Well, I think I could relate to the key recommendations from the process 21, because I think that's interesting, and it reflects a little bit what you were saying, because one of the 4 prioritized areas there is the finance part. We need to, because to become more circular in the industry in Norway, we definitely need to invest in research and development and new technical solutions. And then, just as you mentioned, it needs to offer risk mitigation, both in the development and also in the commercialization part of the process. So one of the actions that we, from the process 21, was recommended is to have increased depreciation rates for investments in low carbon technology and also in circular economy solutions. So I think that's one thing. And then it has been mentioned earlier today several times about that we need to build a market. Somebody needs to buy these circular products. And then it's also when customers should prioritize circular products, it needs to be clear what is a circular product. So it needs to be clear definitions and frameworks on that. And then, of course, it's all the regulations. Most of the regulations we have today is based on a linear economy. So Mr. Rotevatn and his colleagues in the other ministries need to look into that, I think, to ensure that the Norwegian industry becomes more circular.
Thanks. So the minister promised to have his strategy before or during the fall or before Christmas. So regulations, new regulations, that's on your wish list. But Irene or Camilla, do you want to end with some Christmas wishes for the minister?
It's a lot about the finances. This is not a part of the core activities of the members of the cluster today. We need the risk mitigation and we need the long-term commitment also from the authorities. But at the same time, the companies need to do that also. They also need to be in for the long haul. So all the stakeholders need to go into a joint commitment, and it's easier if you know that there's money for investments in the time to come. And I think, like you said about the harmonization of the EU regulations, simplifications of the EU regulations, and that Norway plays a big part in that, in ensuring that it works for the Norwegian industry. And finally, I think that for specifically the process industry, this better system of collecting and sharing information about side streams will be important, and we're actually working on that now together with Eide and ACT, the other process industry. So then follow up on that. Yes.
Camilla?
I guess I'll just continue on that one, because I agree with you on that. And also I thought that the minister wrote about, and he actually said about that competence and the cooperation part. So for the wish list, it will be to enable and move forward with that, as well as putting everything together for us to be able to. And Nina also mentioned the funding. So making adjustments so that the national funding and the European funding might go hand in hand would be of interest for the large industrial projects moving forward.
Thank you. And Irene, we're going to talk about the money in the next session after the break. And also, later on, we're going to hear about a collaboration example with Hydro and a project where you've been involved also, Camilla. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Because now we're going to hear from 3 different industry cases. And the first is a true entrepreneur. He's got a clear vision. Let's clean the world of plastic waste. And so far he's helped clean over 100 tons of plastic. The Norwegian startup Empower was founded January 2018 to empower people to clean the world. It's a great idea, but how do you make it a business? Here to present Empower is Wilhelm Myrer from Empower.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll see if I get this going. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, there it is. So yeah, my name is Wilhelm. I'm CEO and one of the founders of Empower. We started out, as I said, in 2018 with a goal of really making a global plastic waste deposit system. And let me see if I can make this jump. supposed... No, maybe this. Ah, there it is. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, on our kind of vision, I won't go into the plastic waste problem, but our kind of goal to start doing this was we wanted anyone in the world to be able to pick up plastic waste or take it from their house, deliver it to a collection point or a reverse vending machine, and get an immediate financial reward, and thus incentivize really the collection and also the sorting of plastic waste. And we use technology so we could do this anywhere in the world immediately. And by issuing tokens or vouchers on a cell phone, we can do this anywhere in the world. And the locals who did it, they could turn that into local currency or a service or similar. And by doing this, of course, first of all, we reduced plastic waste. People picked up plastic waste and delivered it. And it also created jobs and job opportunities and possibility to make some money by doing something good. And we did the first collection of this in the spring 2018. And immediately we started getting requests from other countries and saying, can we do the same thing here? And in the first 8 months, we did pilots in 8 different countries. So we did it in Norway, but also then in the jungle of Laos, and we did it in Mumbai up here, and really got to test if this kind of incentive system works in different countries. And after 1.5 years, we had done pilots in 16 countries. And today, where we are now, after 2.5 years of operations, we have been partners in 25 countries who do collection or tracking of plastic waste. And we also have individuals or companies who sponsor cleanups and provide funding for this deposit system in a bit more than 25 countries as well. So it's been spreading pretty quickly, and it's really an example of how we need solutions to plastic waste globally. I think from a research perspective as well, one of the interesting things is that we had requests from more than 90 countries so far, where either organizations, individuals, authorities or companies have contacted us and said, can we come and do something here? And in 2 years since we went out more publicly, we have had meetings, calls with more than 200 organizations across the world, really trying to figure out what is the issue, what's wrong with the collection, what's the infrastructure, what's the opportunities. So really, I think we're pretty unique know-how of the global system at the collection side of these things. Probably enough that we have really kind of found some common issues and things that we're trying to handle now with the system. So what have we learned, I guess, when it comes to the incentivization of plastic waste? Firstly, it's a very cost-efficient way of collecting plastic waste. It's crowdsourcing, really, the collection. But it's also crowdsourcing the segregation at source, because you can put the incentive at different levels for different kinds of plastics. You get clean waste streams. Instead of just putting it in a big bin, you can separate them and make people do that. You also get social impact, because you can give, by having a deposit station where anyone can deliver and get paid, those who need that the most will do it. And then it's an equal opportunity in those regions. Finally, it's also by providing an incentive. If you can get paid, people will also be willing to do more things. So we actually been able to easily kind of digitize these processes and remove middlemen and really have created a new level of transparency that you haven't had in waste collection by doing this. So it wasn't kind of a big surprise that this worked, because in Norway we have the plastic bottle deposit system. And when we did this, it was just taking the principles of the bottle deposit system, where you already crowdsource the collection and also segregation at source. You pick out the bottles from the rest of the waste and you deliver it back, and you get the recycling rate around 97% in Norway. So you just apply the same things and really crowdsourcing collection there. But then to keep this circular, of course, you also need to see where does the waste end up. And we have started kind of a flywheel by collecting. And we need also then to find out where does all the waste end up again. We can collect it easily anywhere in the world by putting a value on plastic, but then we also need these two parts to really make it a circular system. So after the first 1.5 years, we've really been trying to build this kind of more circular platform where you have tailored digital tools all along the value chain, all from collection, tracking the plastic where it goes, and back into recycling. And also then trying to use new technologies where needed, because you need transparency, you need the possibility to do global peer-to-peer payments, you need Yeah, cloud, you may need to share data, so you need both cloud and you can use blockchain to make immutable data. So all of this is kind of put into building this. And the key here is that when we did the crowdsourcing with the collectors, we managed to incentivize the collection, but also the digital registration. So what we've been working is how can we make incentives for the whole value chain? Because then the aggregators, the industry, the recyclers, the producers, and in the end, the consumers all need the incentive to share data and to really, we need to change the behavior, of course. So people you create a circular system. You have to move everyone from a linear to a circular system, and for that you need incentives. And by implementing this and giving incentives, you also get data points all the way. That again creates kind of a transparent system, which makes it cost efficient. So I'll go a bit out again on really what's kind of the platform we're building, what we think we need to create a circular economy. And of course, on the left side, you need to be able to, today, since you have a linear economy, of course, all the waste, as you see at Unlabs, 70% of plastic waste goes into landfill or into nature. And we need to have a scalable system of collection and really registration of all the existing waste streams that now goes to incineration, landfills, and those kind of things. And we are working on them, making sure we get that data verified by independent bodies. And when you have this really supply of plastics, we need to share that data with the industry and the ones going to use it. So they really can find it, and we should be able to divert a lot of the materials that now are going to waste into circular systems. And then, of course, keep them in the cycle and really turn the economy from what you have there on is a part of a linear economy into a circular economy. And then we have tried to make kind of a platform with tools for these two parts. So one is on the collection part, to really create incentives for everyone to make the collection and registration of plastic waste. And the first thing, as I mentioned, is the crowdsourcing of collection and segregation. Second one is you need the digital registration, because with that, you can make the plastic and waste streams available for anyone. Then you can, the recycling industry producers that can't find it, they can suddenly find the materials. Third one is a system where we go into regions where they don't have the funding or the infrastructure. We also created a system with cleanup credits equal to carbon credits, but where you can give alternative funding to kind of kickstart waste management and start and scale up collection and invest in new infrastructure. The second part is, of course, the keeping it in the loop and the sourcing and tracking. And you really have a lack of transparency, and this is because of the linear economy. You didn't need really to take care of the waste. But now it's starting to become questions both for consumers and authorities, and you have regulations. So we need a system also to ensure that the waste or materials are really reused. So what we're trying to do is make all these waste streams available for anyone to source it easily. So when Coca-Cola wants to recycle plastic, they should be able to do that at a low cost, because then you make it more competitive towards virgin materials. Secondly, it's also a need to track it. It's food-grade plastics and all these kind of things that will have a higher value, because you need to know where the waste is coming from, or materials are coming from, to be able to sell it in certain markets or for certain uses. So in this, you will also then be able to get the collection data and the supply chain data with the materials automatically. And thirdly, you verify the journey by getting everyone to put in the data along the supply chain. In the end, you should have as a consumer a possibility to really look at what you're buying, see if it's recycled, where it's coming from, and see if it really has a social or environmental footprint. And then you really get this kind of transparency that you need to get a circular economy. And lastly, I think, maybe if I have a minute left, it's 3 cases that we are working on and have been doing so far. And one is in Nigeria. They are using this 2 to 3 gram water sachets, which is kind of the only reliable source to get an affordable source for clean water. But they drink enough of these water sachets every day to cover the whole area of Nigeria. And it's like a huge problem, and it's not valuable enough to be collected. But we have been using these cleanup certificates to kickstart collection in Kano, and they're currently collecting 150 tons of these water sachets, which is more than 50 million of these water shutters per month in Nigeria. And really, we're also then matching those sources of plastic with the major petrochemical companies that need this as raw material in their production. Secondly, we are working with furniture companies Ope and Vestre, and they are collecting plastic off the coast of Norway to turn it into furniture. And we're also then making digital twins with that. So once they are coming out as furniture, they will also be able to take them back and follow them through several life cycles for repair or reuse. So that's another kind of way of just using this digitization. And the last one is a cooperation we have with Inframar and DNVGL, where Inframar is having this boat, and we are using this cleanup credits or plastic credits to really fund collection of more than 5,000 tons of ocean plastic per year, and also making that plastic available for the big brands. And they will again use the DNVGL standard for plastics in the hydrosphere, so we really can get the standardized industry-scale ocean cleanup by using this. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. You've got so much exciting going on, so we have to invite you back. It's a great, inspiring example of also digitalization and job creation. So thank you. For our next industry example, we are coming back to Norway, and here in Norway we're seen as a country of electric cars. But can we also become a market for used batteries? This next example is a collaboration between Hydro, NorVolt, and the battery return system. They've created a project called HydroVolt, and here to present why, what, and how is Fredrik Andersen. And Fredrik is also on stream. So Fredrik, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys.
Okay, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you all for the invitation to tell a little bit about our plans here in Norway regarding the establishment of HydroVolt. I've also talked a bit about Batteriretur, who is the main company for us today. And yeah, my name is Fredrik Andresen, and I'm the director of this company called Batteriretur. Let me see if my slides work here. Here we go. Yeah. Batteriretur is actually a protected brand, and we have 4 companies working under this brand. So our main role is to collect and take care of all of the types of waste from battery sector all over Norway, from south to north. Even in Svalbard, we are collecting batteries to secure a good controlled downstream, and of course, collection of new materials and raw materials for new batteries. Our HQ is in Fredrikstad. We opened here in 2018, close to a nature reservoir actually, so that also shows that we have a good way of driving our business here in Fredrikstad, and by getting the permits we need. In Sandefjord we also have a division where we do dismantling of batteries from electric cars and the marine sector. This is what we call high voltage batteries. And we also have a small division close to Lørenskog, where we have a training and course center and repair center for high voltage batteries. So, opportunities. There is a lot of opportunities in the lithium-ion battery industry. I will, of course, focus on our main targets, which is to handle it as waste. But it all started a few years ago. And on this slide, you can see some examples of electric vehicle batteries, and that shows you there is no standardization. It's more or less only on the cell level you see the standardization, and they are big and complex and with high currency. So they need a certain system to be controlled and be collected and recycled in a good way. So therefore, the car industry came to us in 2012, and they asked us in general to help them develop effective and safe solutions for collection, dismantling, fire and energy safety, and of course develop manuals for this. And yeah, the state is today that we are actually world leading in this field due to Norwegian tax policies that are embracing electrification of our society. So we have also, of course, developed quite unique knowledge and competence in the field of electrification and EV batteries. And of course, we have some unique access to raw material for second life applications, which I will come a bit more back to. There's also a big international interest in what we do. And yeah, we are kind of a showcase from Norway and the world is looking to Norway. We are involved in several R&D projects. Probably some of you heard about Batteriretur. There's a big project going on in the Eide cluster in the south of Norway. And we have been heavily involved in a project called Energy Package Borg. It's actually done here in our facility in Fredrikstad. I will show you actually the result later on in the presentation. And then we are involved in a project called Libes together with Hydro, Glencore and others, where we now are focusing on how to recycle and dismantle batteries in the most automated way possible. So I mentioned Second Life. That's a big name these days. Everybody's talking about Second Life batteries, and yeah, it can be done in a certain extent, but you have to start earlier. You have to think circular earlier. What you see here on this slide is modules and batteries from some type of EVs coming into our facility. And when these batteries are coming into us, they have a lot of energy in them. So we are actually draining that energy by discharging the battery. And on the picture up to the right here, that's a battery bank we built from used modules from a German car manufacturer's battery. So we are reusing the energy into our facilities. So in Sandefjord, we're actually buying power. We are producing more power than we can use. So that shows how our focus is to try to find a good solution also for reusing not only the materials, but also the energy coming in from the batteries. In Fredrikstad, we have a bigger project. That was the project called Energy Package Borg. And on the roof here, you can see some solar panels, and you can see a container including a battery bank. This is a big project. We are just finishing it up now these days. And we are actually producing more or less all the power we need to run our facilities ourselves. We have to store this, of course, in a battery bank. Here you can see some small examples of what we do. We take out the modules, we create the software, we brand even the circuit boards to make it our own. And all of this is done together and in acceptance with the OEM of the vehicles. They're also interested to see what can you do with our batteries, Batteriretur. Here we do some balancing, some testing, building the systems, and it all goes into a battery bank. This is two of our technicians, Fredrik and Håvard. And here you see actually a battery bank that's outside my window here, which contains modules from 4 different car brands. So as far as I know, this is the first one in the world who is mixed that way. We just had software upgrades a couple of days ago, so Fredrik and Håvard was here, so I just took a picture of them to show it with you today. But the system really works, and it produces over 1/2 a megawatt into our facilities. So we can run the facilities on this and have some peak shaving and have a controlled usage of energy. The future is electric. There's no doubt about that. We see that from, of course, in the transportation sector, and also the marine sector is growing significantly now. So this is in Norwegian, but just to show you, we are really happy that just a few weeks ago, we finally got an acceptance and approval from the county governor and the county that we can further develop our company and build even more here in Fredrikstad. And we will actually build the first dismantling factory for batteries coming from electric vehicles and marine sector. That will be super automated as long as possible. And closing the loop, for me, it's been important to not only that we use electric vehicles in Norway as a pioneer country, and we can be a pioneer country for collection and dismantling, but I also want to close the loop here in Norway and create Norwegian labor places and workplaces so we can develop technology that we can export and show that Norway can do so much more than oil. And we have been seeking for several years to find our partners in this. And June 1st, the news broke that the Swedish company called Northvolt, which is huge, becoming huge, building a big cell factory in Schefte in Sweden, and the Norwegian company Hydro has announced that they will form a joint venture called HydroVolt. It took some time before the media picked up that it would actually be done here in our facility in Fredrikstad, and we will be the operator here. But the main goal is to secure that we finally can do some enabling some urban mining here, not only taking virgin material from and produce batteries, but also taking care of the waste that is a consequence of the electrification of our society. So HydroVolt is a joint venture for a pilot to recycle lithium-ion batteries in Norway. The facilities will be here in our operating facilities here, and we will recycle the batteries and produce raw materials for new lithium-ion batteries. Of course, this is just announced, and we are also pending the permit from the county governor, but we are really positive and got good signals. I think this will be pretty much go smooth. And then the final investment decision will be made. But we are really pushing, so the project phase is ongoing, and the construction of the facilities is to start now in 2020. And the goal is to have the Turkey pilot up and running in 2021. And that means that we are closing the loop here in Norway from Q3, Q4 in 2021 for batteries. All in all, this is it's super important because establishing green industrial jobs with a strong circular economy approach or perspective are clearly in line with our government's policies, of course, but also the global goals for the environment and the development. So I used to say that, in other words, this is environmental focused industry and development of our society working hand in hand. That was me. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You said the future is electric, but with cases like this, the future looks bright as well. And your case really summarizes what we've been discussing today. It's about cutting carbon, reusing materials, and creating jobs. And now what we need is money. We started off with the minister's ambition to become circular front runner. And the final presentation in this section, we're going to hear from a real front runner, a current circular leader. We saw from the presentation of the Circular Gap report that the Netherlands is way ahead. And the consultancy Metabolic have been helping regions and companies succeed in their transition. So on link, we should have Pieter from Exter from Metabolic. Are you here?
Yeah, here I am.
Great. We are excited to hear your 3 advice on how to succeed.
Yeah, thanks so much. And thanks so much for having me. It's really great to be at the conference again, though it's a virtual one. I really enjoy hearing others speak about their innovations and about where they are working on. And for me, that's something that I'm really missing in this lockdown is hearing new ideas and getting inspired. So thanks for inviting me. And then let me try to share some of the things that we do at the organization that's called Metabolic. So within Metabolic, I lead the circular production and consumption team. And at Metabolic, we use system thinking to help companies, cities, but also NGOs with accelerating this transition to a circular economy. And we all know that the circular economy is a very hot topic at the moment, but we also have a very long way to go. Recently, we've heard that Norway is only 2.4% circular. So that means that we need to bridge a gap of 97.6%. You could say we're at the early days. We're still very excited, but now we need to realize it. And today I want to share 3 more drastic or radical strategies that we've been using with organizations to actually accelerate and leverage this transition. And hopefully they are a bit of inspiration for you as well. And my personal background is in the field of industrial ecology. And an industrial ecologist explores the interaction between the environment and the economy. And I can tell a lot about that, but I think it's best if I just show you how I look at the world. And that's in this way. This is a very classic Dutch bike. It's a Gazelle, but then all the materials that are in it. So you can see a green lacquer. You see some red, which is the rear light. You see aluminium, you see rubber, etc. As an industrial ecologist, you look at material flows, and you follow them from the very mining of the materials to the very end. And in most of the cases, and in Norway's case, in 97.6 of the cases, they'll end, as a waste. They dissipate. And that's also because our materials and our supply chains are incredibly complex, and they become more complexer by the year, I would say. So the life of an industrial ecologist is by no means easy. And that's what we're ending up with. I think this is a very strong image that sort of resembles, what could happen if we continue to go this way. Resource extraction, making incredibly complex products for which we have no clue what to do with it at the end of life. These are the fossils of the Anthropocene. So before I get into the strategies, I just want to quickly tell you a bit how we look at circular economy, because it was also just mentioned that it's important to know what you mean with the circular economy, because there are so many definitions, and this is one of them. So we have a very holistic approach to the circular economy. It is an economic model that addresses the needs that we have as humans in a fair and responsible way, without undermining the function of the biosphere or staying within the planetary boundaries. So how can we meet our daily needs while not putting more pressure on the planet, reducing our pressure on the planet? So we need to look both on the materials, energy and water side, but also on health and well-being, society and culture. And we shouldn't, shift the burden from one to another. So that actually means that we need to design really systemic solutions that not just operate on one side of the puzzle, but on all sides of them. So this is sort of how I sometimes explain how we apply systems thinking. It's a bit more complex, but once you've resolved that puzzle, it's also really gratifying. So let's now get into the three solutions. So the first one is to prioritize. We have no time to lose. We have to transition as soon as possible. And it's also important that we make some big strides so that we'll get to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% circular in the coming decade, hopefully. And what really helps for organizations, if they make an inventory of all their material and energy flows, and also the impacts that these material and energy flows lead to it. So what we often do, and sometimes organizations do this themselves, is to make a materiality assessment of all their energy flows, their water flows, and their material flows, and see where they actually have most impact. This can be direct within your own process, but it can also be further up the supply chain or further down. And as soon as you've identified those hotspots, it's best to sort of start there and see if you can leverage those to make impact as much as possible and make a prioritization. The second important strategy is really about rethinking and redesigning based on the function and the end goal that you want to establish with it. This is where you can have most impact. And technology and innovation nowadays to much more radical new solutions to provide the same function. And an example is quite related to the speaker Fredrik before, who talked about this really cool, innovative company that's working on recycling batteries from electric vehicles. And when we want to scale up electric vehicles for the whole world, we need a 10-fold increase of a lot of critical metals such as cobalt, lithium, and neodymium. And we've looked at many ways to how to reduce that demand and that new resource demand that we have. And we looked at innovation and other options. But in the end, we found that it's most effective if you don't try to change the car or the technology, but really rethink how you can get from A to B. So rather to focus on the product, which is the car, and turn it into a more sustainable one, you can zoom out and focus on the service and the function that we want to achieve. We want to get from A to B, and how can we do that in the best possible way, and how can we make a combination of car sharing, public transport, self-driving vehicles, and so on. And this will get into a much more interesting and also less resource-intensive mix in the end. And also if we, for instance, in the Netherlands, which is a very dense populated country, if we have more shared transport, that also allows more cobalt to be used, for instance, in a country as Norway, where there is more need for private vehicles. And let me again get to the third example, and I know that I'm going fast, but yeah, we need to go fast in this transition. So the first strategy is contextualize, and this is really important. The circular economy is not the end goal, it's more a mean to get to a goal, which is to reduce the impact that we have on our planet. But we always going to need resources to feed ourselves, for instance, or to replenish some of the resources that accidentally dissipated. But it really depends, that impact is really context dependent. It really depends if we use hardwood that comes from the Amazon, or we have birchwood which is coming from your country. The impact of that, biodiversity loss or contribution to climate change, is very different. So a fundamental part of decoupling our resource use and our impact is to also look at the context. And an example is work that we've done with Alpro and together with WWF. And we looked at the impact of their almond farms in Spain. And we really zoomed in here and found that actually two farms that are quite close to each other can already have a different impact because they're part of a different watershed, part of a different ecoregion. So the context is really important for us to still meet our needs that we have within the planetary boundaries. And that's also a very important strategy to deleverage that impact that we have from our resource consumption. So I realized again that it was very fast, but I hope these were some inspiring examples of how we can fast track the transition to a fully circular economy. There's a lot to do. Everybody is excited, so let's keep that excitement and let's get started. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Let's get started. Thank you. So prioritize, rethink, and conceptualize. Thank you so much for joining us, Pieter.